Welcome back to another episode of the Neighborhood Ventures podcast. I'm Bart Deal, and today I'm joined by the co-founder of Neighborhood Ventures, John Koporowski. It'll be a good podcast today. We're going to go over a few of our properties, give you some updates on them and what's going on. To dive right in, I want to talk about venture on Colter. This is an asset we acquired at the end of January this year, 2025. Upon acquisition, it was 72% occupied, and I just talked to our property manager earlier this week, and she says it's now over 80% occupied.
Correct.
So that's a big win there. What else is going on with this property? What are some other big ones we have?
Well, there's a story right there. Just a real quick one.
Yeah.
We took it over. We took it over from a lender that had foreclosed on it. And we suspected that even though the occupancy they said was higher, we suspected it was lower. So we had to clean house, which we knew, and we'd rather do that. So we went in there, late paying tenants, a couple other tenants that were not the caliber tenant we want to have in our properties.
Yeah.
That they had let in because they just wanted to hit occupancy. So I think we dropped down from 72 to less than that.
Yeah.
And now we're 80% stable and climbing.
Yeah.
So I suspect by this summer we'll be in the 90s and stabilized, and the property looks good. I'm not authorizing a lot of CapEx expenses. We don't need them.
Yeah.
But a lot of CapEx expenses until we get the property into the 90% occupancy rate. We have consistent cash flow. But we do have a new sign coming. That took a little while.
Sweet.
Amazing how long it takes to get signs made. It's not a whole brand new sign. It's the new panels for it. So that's going in. We're doing some other improvements to the property. Our maintenance guy's done a great job of really understanding the property. It's the first time he's been on a master meter property like that.
Yeah.
And went through a little bit of a learning curve, which was fantastic. Understands the chiller, has fixed little things that broke himself without having to call in an extra company. So we've been keeping maintenance costs lower than it could have been. We're in our high use of the chiller system. It's hot and it's humid, which really taxes those systems.
Yeah.
And it's doing really well. Then there's just a whole bunch of little things we're doing. We're starting to do some improvements to the kitchens, putting new cabinet doors on, possibly even doing a handful of units with upgraded cabinets in the kitchens.
Yeah.
Opening up the wall between the kitchen. A couple of units have a wall between the kitchen and the living room, which just breaks up the whole room. But little things like that. And our manager is fantastic, and she's on top of stuff, and she's got a good handle on what's going on in the neighborhood.
Yeah. I know the previous owner, that was one of the big selling points of this property is they had spent $2 million in CapEx.
Correct.
So we don't really have to do a lot of work on the properties. And you just identified maybe a little bit of the kitchens, opening up the space. Is there anything else?
You know what's strange? They did all that work.
Yeah.
They did the heavy lifting stuff. They didn't touch the kitchen cabinets. When you go in there, you go, ugh.
Yeah.
They're not horrible, but you're like, and they're not very big. I mean, we're talking about 8 feet of cabinets.
Yeah.
I mean,
studios and one bedroom, so you can imagine.
Yeah. So again, we're not in the kind of market where you get a really big bump for fixing things like that. So Rigo, when he's got some spare hours, he's been putting handmade custom new doors for the cabinets.
Yeah.
He makes it pretty quickly himself, and he puts them on. He goes, John, it looks like brand new.
Yeah, and you mentioned you wanted to wait till it's over 90% occupied. Is that because these improvements would primarily be coming out of cash flow?
Yeah, we've got money set aside for it,
Okay.
but I want to keep our people moving forward, and I want to get the property stabilized.
Yeah.
And then, we can see where we spend the money. But it's an interesting market because the I-17 corridor traditionally has always been a tough market, and those properties get beat up at times like this when there's shifts in the market. But we benefit from being a neighbor to
GCU, yeah.
Yep.
Well, great. It's a great update with Colter. I do want to jump into our second acquisition that we had this year, Venture on 52nd. So we closed on Venture on 52nd in mid-March of this year. And again, I had the same conversation with our PM asking about how's occupancy doing. And occupancy is up from 90% to 94%. May had 3 new move-ins, and they have 3 more move-ins scheduled for June. She did point out that we might see a slight dip in occupancy as we get low-paying tenants out and bring in higher-paying tenants.
Correct. We're pushing. So to frame it even better, what happened was the last owner lost that property not because of not paying their bills or things like that. They lost it because their loan came due, and they were desperately trying to refinance that property. So they were doing everything to keep the property 90% occupied or better to get the new loan. Unfortunately, they were giving away rent to get there.
Yeah.
Now we step in and we have a beautiful property, well renovated, all the big heavy lifting stuff done, and our rents are below market. So we're slowly going through, and I know our manager said that she thinks we might lose a couple here and there. We've been pretty good on retention. I think we're gonna, and I think we're gonna be okay. We're gonna. The other thing is we've already done some of the capital improvements we talked about, and we're seeing those pay off. So we put in. We noticed the hardest units to rent, as told to us by the previous manager company, were the units around Thomas. So we talked about what we did is we walked in there and we realized, no kidding, you're standing in that unit, you hear every truck and car going by on the street because the windows are old, they didn't close tightly, and they're single pane. Now we put in brand new sliding glass doors that are double pane, very energy efficient and quiet, new windows, and as our maintenance team said, they said, gosh, John, you don't understand the difference.
I did an investor tour before they were installed, and I was like, this is going to be hard to lease up these units. It's so loud in here. And then we went back basically a month later with that same group of investors, and they were this head's night and day difference how quiet it is.
And they're amazing units. They have balconies looking at Camelback Mountain.
Oh yeah, it's the best view.
Gorgeous. So that, and then we've also executed on the other plan, which is the units on the east side of the first floor units on the east side of the property. We've gone through and we put in what they call pony walls. So it's a step down wall. So we haven't created separate private backyards. We created semi-private areas. So we still have access to it, and no one can set up, obnoxious things in the backyard. They just can sit back there. We've taken out a window and replaced it with a door. And in one case, replaced a bigger window with a sliding glass door, which really opened up that one studio apartment or the one bedroom apartment. And now we have, I think it's 10 units down there that have patios on the back. And we figured out that it's about a 2.5 year payback on the cost to do that with a $110, $125 a month bump in rent.
Yeah.
Is what we estimated. So at $110, $120, $125 a month bump in rent for those units, it pays back in 2.5 years on that work.
Yeah, no, that was one of the coolest things, was seeing the updates, getting the pictures of what it was before and then what they look like now.
And the fact that people are like, wow,
yeah.
I love that. Little simple things we did too. We've cleaned up the chiller room, which was pretty good. Little things we had wanted to make it run better. We've rebuilt the cooling tower, which not a big deal. It was the media inside there, the insulation stuff inside there had to be rebuilt. A couple $1,000s to get that done, which you do every 3 to 4 years. Most important thing there, our system runs so much more efficiently. And then the other thing we've done, we had 4 or 5 roller garbage cans, dumpsters in the back. And our new garbage company, which is, I love the fact we have a company that actually is responsive to us. They said, you don't need to have all these. You need to have 2 bigger ones, and we'll pick them up twice a week.
Wow.
Instead of having the 4 or 5, they get picked up once a week, and we have to roll these things around. They take up all this room. So we're going to build 2 garbage trash surrounds, one near the chiller room and one back by the park with gates on them. The trucks can pull right in. They hook up the dumpster, roll it back.
Yeah.
We have less garbage in the area. It's in a spot that you don't necessarily smell it or it doesn't get in the way, but yet it's accessible for the tenants. That's underway.
That's a big win. Yeah.
It's just little things like that. Like, why do we have 5 of these things that we have to roll around all the time?
Yeah, and so we talked about garbage. We talked about the windows facing Thomas and the patios. Are there any future ones that we're thinking about potentially doing, washers and dryers?
Yeah, so we look at the idea of doing washer and dryers. I think we can do them on the back units, the 2 bedrooms. We figured out where to put them. The other units, it's really on the main building, it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
From the standpoint that it's a master meter property, from the standpoint that it takes up crucial space in the living room or in the dining room.
Yeah.
Living room or kitchen. There's really not a convenient spot to put them. And we have great laundry rooms there.
Yeah.
But I think we have 2 laundry rooms, one in the main building and we have one in the back building. I think what we're going to end up doing is potentially we could put washer and dryers in the back building in those units and eliminate the one laundry room that we have back there and potentially turn that into another unit.
Yeah.
I think maybe.
Yeah, well, we'll keep our investors in the loop on that. That's something down the road, but I know it's something internally we're discussing that you guys would like to hear. The next project I want to talk about is venture on Country Club. So we talked about last month that there's required fire safety that needs to be added to the property and other renovations. Are there other operational costs we need to address moving forward, or things that are coming up?
So the city is part of our agreement to obtain multifamily zoning to go from hotel to apartment building required us to do some cosmetic things to the property, some grading and drainage work, take down the hotel sign and put a smaller sign. It looks more like an apartment building.
Yeah.
And they wanted us to add fire sprinklers. We got very lucky, found the right companies we talked about. That's underway. The plans are in with the city. I think they were due back last week, the 28th. So I haven't talked to our fire company this week yet, but they were due back from the city with comments on the 28th, which they might have to be working on. They're probably minor things.
Yeah.
We're at the point now where we probably would have been selling this property if not for the market we're in. It's a buyer's market, not really a seller's market today, but it's a good operations market. So we are now looking at some of the things we're spending a lot more on the property than we wanted to. Two main categories that we're seeing. One is the kitchen countertops that we resurfaced. It wasn't cheap to do it, but it's cheaper than putting new countertops on. Now we're finding that we have to go back to those countertops, and materials we're putting down are chipping up, which is going to happen after 3+ years.
Yeah.
Hindsight, should we have put in new countertops? Yeah, but we didn't know we were going to keep it this long. Second thing is falls in the same line, the tubs. We're starting to realize that the type of materials now, just like the countertop refinishing materials, are not the same kind of oil-based, very heavy, very strong paints that you can buy back 15 years ago. So we used to recoat our tubs with a new surface, and they were beautiful and they held up almost like a brand new tub. Now we're finding that it's costing us $500 to recoat those tubs and shower surrounds. It's smelly paint. Takes a while for the guys to do it. The materials are expensive, and it's barely lasting a tenant.
Wow.
So if we've come up with a plan. I've been able to negotiate a price and come up with a plan. We're putting in sort of hotel-style bathtub replacement shower enclosures. These are shower pan with a trench. They call it a trench drain, very European style. Beautiful wall panels that look like they're tile, and a glass shower door. We just finished yesterday negotiating the pricing on this.
Yeah.
We're getting the first 5 of them to play with them. It's about $1,200, $1,100 to $1,200 for that one piece, and they're telling us that our maintenance guy can do 1 a day in the beginning, and once they understand it, we can do 2 a day.
Yeah.
One guy can demo the old tub out, and install the new shower, walk-in shower with the door, and do 2 a day, and that's about $1,200. To put it in perspective, that's just over 2 times of recoating the tub with that paint. It makes a lot of sense.
So it's a long-term fix, and just to summarize what you said, so this property is something we're going to hold on to probably for 3 more years. And with that, if we're going to have a long-term mindset, we need to revisit how we renovate or turn a unit.
How we operate. Because right now we're kind of being penny wise and dollar foolish.
Yeah.
We're fixing things, but that the materials you're using aren't holding up for another 3 years. This way, when we do these things, we're going to put new countertops down. And we're going to put in the new tubs. New showers in place of tubs. And we have a way to do it where it looks really, really nice, but it's going to be a lot more efficient in cost and timing. Perfect.
And so how does this affect distributions? Because I know they've been paused for quite some time. Is this something that we're going to continue keeping distributions paused?
We're probably going to have to, again.
Okay.
My concern in this economy, and it's to the benefit of all of us, I want to do as much as I can at a cash flow. We've got a longer-term permanent loan on the property.
Yeah.
But I want to have some reserves, get these things fixed. I want to have reserves, and I want the properties to run well. So rather than distributing money and then have to go, oh man, we're now putting us in a position where we have to fix things. Let's just be smart about it.
Yeah, especially with another 3 years long-term, we got to have a long-term mindset with how we use operational cash flow.
Correct. And the occupancy is strong there, and all the other stuff is in line. We have some funds set aside for the big work, the sprinklers that we're putting in. By the way, the other thing that just got finished, we're one of the first properties in Mesa to have Google Fiber.
Wow.
Worked out a deal where Google brought fiber in, and now tenants have their own access and ability to sign up for Google Fiber. Phenomenally fast, very effective in pricing, and they've been excited by it. Right away. They're all signing up for their own, so we don't have to supply internet anymore. It saves us cost on the property, and the tenants have it on their own.
And so you briefly touched on extending the timeline for 3 more years. I think everyone knows it's not a great time to sell an asset. If you're a buyer, awesome.
Correct.
What's going on in the market that's telling you we should hold this for another
Well,
3 years?
beginning
or
with
so?
low transaction volume.
Yeah.
Secondly, the cap rates right now, if you are to sell a property or not, to get someone to the table, it's probably a 6+ cap rate, where traditionally it's been low fives, and it's all because we have higher interest rates and very limited lending.
Yeah.
So it's just not the right time to sell an asset unless you have to. And I as we said all along when we're putting these properties together, there might be times when we're saying we have to hold these things longer. They're going to cash flow. They're going to keep themselves going. I wish our permanent loan had lower interest rate. We've got a good one. It was better than the construction loan we had, but until we get to a point where there's more liquidity in the market and people can pay more for buildings, which is going to happen. We're seeing rents go up. We're seeing more stability and occupancy across the entire market, but unfortunately, no one has a crystal ball to say when rates are going to come down a bit more. But that's what we need to spur some more development and more investment and more sales, because right now there's just very little sale activity.
Yeah. Well, the next asset I want to talk about is venture on Route 66. This is a great asset, high performing and cash flowing. We purchased this asset in 2022, and I've been paying distributions for about 10 months now. Are there any key objectives moving forward with this asset?
The property is really, really well positioned. We did everything right on that property. Put in perspective, we were able to get not only a new insurance company on it, but a new insurance company at a lower rate.
Yeah.
Now, put it in perspective, this is in Flagstaff. Flagstaff had a very dry winter. Insurance companies have been pulling back and not renewing people. We got non-renewed on our last insurance company, and we got the new one we got was half the cost of the first one. And why did we get that? Because the property had brand new plumbing, brand new electric, brand new roofs, brand new sewer lines, all the things we did that made that property. So we were able to show that to the insurance company. They said, we got it. This is a brand new property. It's running well. We've now done almost every single unit's been now turned over to long-term rentals. We have a few that are still doing some short-term rentals because we had some commitments that we have to honor from late December that when we started making the transition. But the property's running really, really well. And as it turns out, we're getting much higher rents than we thought. So we thought we'd get $13.50 if we were doing market rents. I think right now we're getting $17.50 to $19.50. Wow. So it makes a lot more sense for us to run it as a long-term rental than it did as a short-term rental.